We're going to hear much more from both of you later on during the show. Right now, I want to go over to Jovita, who is with some of the leaders of these protesters.
That's right, Craig. Thank you so much. So now I want to welcome Mary Hook. She's with Black Lives Matter Atlanta. We've been seeing your organization and others, other groups who have formed over this past year or so, protesting around the streets of Atlanta, as the mayor and the chief just talked about. We've also been hearing a lot of differing messages. So tell me tonight, what is the focus of Black Lives Matter? What is it that your group wants to see here in Atlanta moving forward?
Moving forward, we want transparency and honesty. We want to be able to have a clear assessment of what the conditions of working class black folks really are. We want to make sure that it's understood that in order to model what it really means to be a city that is supporting the demands of the protesters, that we show that through our money, by divesting from the police and investing in the lives of our people, because we know that the greatest threat to public safety is not the highway and folks standing on it. Our people, we all drive in this traffic, we know how to brake, you know what I'm saying? The real threat to public safety is our people not being able to work, because nobody's caring when the homeless folks are walking up the side of the freeway asking for money, and that's real. Nobody's caring about that. And so I think we need to be honest about how we've gotten here and what it's going to take to actually peel back this militarized police force that you take very much pride in. However, our folks don't feel that way. And I know that there is a gap when some of our people are like, yes, we need police, but we also need to have a progressive thinking mayor that says if the only ammunition we have to deal with the issues and the violence and the things that's happening in our community is more police versus actually having solutions that allow for vocational rehab, that are feeding our homeless folks, that are putting people in homes and not cages, and we're not profiting off of their lives through the municipal court system, getting on private probation. That's what needs to change. And so actually, Mayor, I don't know exactly, what has come out of or like what the next 10 steps are going to be, but I know as far as our people and what we're trying to do, we are in active resistance until something really changes. Active resistance. And that's why folks need to boycott the municipal court and not use it, because so many people are getting pulled into the municipal court on private probation and having to choose between paying their bills and having to pay court fines and fees. And we know that the city ordinance needs to be decriminalized. Do you know how many people, black men, who got arrested for weed possession in 2015? 2,500. Only 150 of those were white people. And that's a clear line saying that our community is being targeted. And you have progressive mayors like Tim over there, is that name Ted Lewis over there in Clarkston, that actually just passed an ordinance that they won't even arrest people for weed anymore. And we know in this nation that white folks are making billions of money off of an industry, and our people are going to jail for it. It's unacceptable.
And Mary, let me ask you the question, too, about the different groups that we've seen marching through the streets of Atlanta. And I understand you have plenty of concerns that can also be addressed another time, because I'm not sure that you were in the meeting yesterday. Right. Okay. So we know that you weren't there, so there were other things that they talked about in that meeting. But the groups that we've seen around the streets, because there are concerns from other people around the city about how disruptive that can be. Do you think that there's a way that these different groups can work together, that perhaps instead of marches and demonstrations and protests, there could be other ways? You talk about an active, silent protest, but are there other things, do you think that these groups can come together to do?
I think that, when it comes to how people want to express their righteous anger for the conditions that we have to see every day, to have to see our people with no dignity in our communities, like having to beg, having to see mothers and their children beg, our young babies selling water, we'll do anything for liberation. So I can't say that, and I'm sorry that those who enjoy the comforts of living in Atlanta and a city that is too busy to hate is certainly a city too busy to care. Right? And so for those of us that are having to, have the inconvenience of going to the street and having to take to the street, we shouldn't have to do that in Atlanta. But all over the world, we see that black folks are still having to be in active resistance because white supremacy, capitalism, and racism are very much alive. Thank you to Dr. King. He gave us some foresight. And so our tactics and the ways in which we change our communities need to actually reflect that we heard what he said. Right? And so we need to be thinking about those solutions. And so the tactics we use ain't by any means necessary.
Right, Mary, I want to thank you for your comments. We did say that we wanted to have an open discussion here tonight. So these are clearly some feelings that we are getting from, I don't want to say the streets, but from people who are maybe not in certain positions and don't hold positions around our city. I think you speak for a lot of people. I hear a couple of amens in the room, even as Mary is speaking tonight. So I appreciate your comments and thank you for adding that. I think that there certainly has to be more dialogue that happens between the groups that we've seen on the streets and those, you know, in positions of power, so that there could be more coherence, I guess, happening around the city. Mayor, I don't know if there's anything you want to add right now.
I'm happy to add something, I mean, so that we're having a conversation. She referenced homelessness. The Regional Commission on Homelessness noted less than 6 months ago that my administration, since we've been in office, has reduced homelessness by 50%. You say that we aren't doing anything. When I got elected mayor, every single recreation center in the city of Atlanta, with the exception of a third of them, were closed. Now 33 are opening, and we're seeing between 1,500 to 700 children every day. No, I didn't interrupt you, man. I didn't interrupt you. I let you say everything you wanted to say about this city and trash it, and I didn't interrupt at all. We have more young people in our summer program and in Camp Best Friends than we ever had in the history of the city of Atlanta. When I got elected mayor of Atlanta, unemployment in the city and in the region was in excess of 10%. That includes black people. The number today is below 5.6% because many of the initiatives that we have launched to bring people in. The Atlanta Workforce Development Agency was on the verge of being shuttered. Now it's viewed as a model in the state. It is training people for long-term jobs and long-term employment. Vine City and English Avenue are two of the most challenged zip codes in the city of Atlanta. I'm the person that secured a $30 million grant from President Obama's administration to leverage $400 million to invest in Vine City and English Avenue. And so while I appreciate all of the criticism you have, the posture that you all consistently take is we're bad no matter what we do. Now, we can sit down and have a conversation, and I can show you where we were when I walked into office and we were in the worst economy that the United States has faced in 80 years, the worst recession that the city of Atlanta has faced in 80 years, and where we are today. And while we may be imperfect, so much of life is about direction. And so I remain open on all of the demands that Black Lives Matter and other civic activists are making, but I'm always going to be honest and tell you what I will and what I won't do. You said I should divest from the police department. 52% of the general fund goes to public safety, police, fire, and corrections. I can tell you that I'm not going to do that because philosophically we disagree. But what I will also tell you is if you have initiatives that you think that we need to fund, I have been able to get resources to expand the pie rather than reducing the pie. And so, you know, the demands that Black Lives has made is very clear. You all said that you didn't want APD officers or on the 25 list of demands in City of Atlanta schools. We're not in City of Atlanta schools. They have their own police department. So when you lead and when you say things, you have an obligation to at least make sure that what you're saying is valid or based in fact. And the fact of the matter is, we're not in APS schools. They have their own police department. And so what I will do is, on the 25 questions, you know what I said? I'll answer every single one. So at least you know where I stand. And once you know where I stand, if we don't agree, but who is us? You do not represent all black people. You do not represent the 50% of the folks who were homeless before I became mayor, who are not homeless anymore. You don't represent the veterans who by Veterans Day in 2016 are going to have functional zero homelessness. You weren't in my cabinet meeting on yesterday when we were launching an initiative with the Atlanta Housing Authority, Invest Atlanta, and the Atlanta Beltline to create more than 5,000 units of affordable housing. So you laid out your case and laid out mine. You have your us, and I care about all of you. So if you got 25 demands, if I could agree to 10, I want to. But I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I agree to 25. I'm not going to tell you that I won't partner with the Israeli police force. So I'm not going to tell you that. So, I mean, Javita, right? I mean, you said you wanted to have a conversation, so I listened about the de-investing in police. I said I'm not going to do that. The relationship that we have with the Israeli police force is essential to us being able to develop counterterrorism methods at a time when terrorism is becoming an increasing threat post-Paris, November 13th. So the people of Atlanta ought to know on November 13th in Paris, in less than 45 minutes, 100 people were murdered. Now that might not be your problem, but it is mine. You see, I'm the one that gets the calls at night. I'm the one that talks to the family of murder victims. I'm the one who gives the order for police officers to run into harm's way. I'm the guy who's got to figure out how to get new vests for my officers because they've got to run towards AR-15 fire.
Right.
I'm the one that hasn't figured that out. I'm the one that's getting calls from families asking me, why in the world do I have officers standing out defending protesters when there could have been copycats to what happened in Dallas? So you shared your reality, and I'm here tonight to share mine.